Hello, Nick.
In progress.
Recording is in
Hi,
progress.
how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
I was talking to someone today, and I said it like that, and they were like, that reminds me of Nick. And I was like, me too. I think he started that. But then I realized that it's from SpongeBob. But you're
Yeah.
SpongeBob as a person, so that makes sense.
Thanks. It's yeah,
Whatever
no, it
that
is from
means.
SpongeBob. It is from SpongeBob the normal episode when he's like, yeah, I got normal. And he's like,
Hi,
how
I'm
are
normal.
you? Yeah, hi, how are you?
Wonderful weather we're having.
And then he's like, all right, see you around.
Yeah.
But I think it's from something else too.
Did
But I
SpongeBob
don't-
take it from something?
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, that's where that came from. A
Yeah.
lot of we've talked about this. A lot of my jokes are not original, and I would say that that's true for the vast majority of people.
Beg, borrow, and steal.
That's what we do.
That's what we do. That's like a it's an unofficial definition of comedy, maybe an official definition for comedy, but also an unofficial definition for like ministry work too, like in terms of like campus ministry stuff. I feel like in my opinion.
You're about to tell us where you've been. That segues perfectly, but I did want to say I had to read something senior year of high school on comedy for my English lang class, and it said something like that, like it's made up of like a few different types of comedic styles that you take from other people. I'm totally butchering that, but that is something that I read.
That makes sense. Like in a way, comedy is just taking our experiences and like piecing it up into something new or having a new take on something.
Right.
Like if you said something, I could hear it and then spin it in a way that I thought was funnier.
I
was like, as I was saying that, as I was
dig your way out.
As I was saying that sentence, I was like, this can't end well. I'm just digging my hole deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am at Loyola again. I feel like when early on in this podcast and I said I'm back at Loyola and it's so nice after graduating, and I feel like I've been here multiple times after that, and it's no longer, it's definitely special for me, but maybe not as special to hear from our listeners. But yes, I am here, and I see myself, and I'm leading Loyola has these programs that are before the fall semester begins. They're appropriately called pre-fall programs, and they're for first year students who want to move in a little bit early, maybe get to know the school before everybody else gets there. And so I'm leading campus ministries pre-fall program called First, which, Nick, I didn't realize. I knew it stood for something, but I didn't know what it stood for. Do you remember what it stands for?
No, I'm kidding. It's something ignite, something serve, something. I got 2 of them.
You got 2 out of 5. That's not bad.
You know,
it's find.
I knew it was fine. But I thought that was stupid. I thought it was stupid.
It's fine. I mean, since it's campus ministry, I initially thought it was faith, but it's find.
It's fine. Yeah, I knew that.
Find, ignite, serve, reflect, transition. And
right.
I spelt fissert just now. So it's
all right. I didn't
find,
even
ignite, reflect, serve, transition.
I didn't even notice.
Yeah, well,
but I love First. That's where I met Rachel Teresi, who was on this show, episode 14. Ow! Shout out Rachel.
And you've been
and
on
Justin's ears.
And in our listeners' ears. And Mairead has also been on it, and Angela has also done First, and Ryan DeVilliers has also done First. So there's a lot of
so good
podcasts.
I'm so sorry. So I thought at 10 o'clock I wasn't going to be interrupted. That's not the case. Continue.
Okay, no, I was just naming our guests that have also been a part of First or participated in First. I personally didn't do it, but it's really fun. As I was telling you before we got on air, we have a fantastic group of people doing this. Just these first years are incredible. They're engaged. They're really buying in. They're getting to know each other really well. And like we do a lot of icebreakers on First. And
yes,
those can be awkward, but that's kind of the point. and
Yeah.
they are just embracing the awkwardness, and it's fantastic. So I have really, really, really enjoyed my experience leading first and experiencing it for the first time as well. And I'm so thankful for our friend Emily, who works in campus ministry, that asked me to come back and lead, and if I would. And
I love that.
I'm glad that my broken foot has not inhibited me from doing that.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Hey Siri, play "Break the Ice" by Legendary Spears.
Is that who is that?
Her fans, her fans, for some reason, like anytime she does something, it's like when she was rehearsing for her residency, it was like rehearsal knee. I don't know, like it just like Britney,
like adding NEY to something.
Yeah. I don't know why.
So what did you say it was? By
Legendary
Spears.
Because you said you were doing icebreakers.
Icebreakers, yeah.
There are a lot of them.
Ice. Yes,
Did
there's
you
lots
do
of them.
The shoe one where it's like move if you blah blah blah, and you have to go find someone else's shoes.
Yes, but we didn't use shoes because post-pandemic.
All right.
So we used folders, but where the wind blows, I think is that one, right?
Yeah.
It's like the wind blows for
fruity people. No one moves.
One
moves. One person decide or like thinks in their head like, should I do it? Should I do it? No one moves.
Nobody moves.
Nobody moved.
I don't know. People are becoming more authentically themselves, and that's fantastic. So yeah, this group is fantastic.
Love.
It was very hot today, and I still haven't showered. I just got back to the hotel that I'm staying in, and I'm going to shower immediately after this. So I'm glad that smell is not a part of the podcast experience for you or our listeners. So that's how I'm doing, and I'm super, super, I guess, pivoting into what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for the Loyola community and my connections, being an alum entering my second year out from Loyola.
God, I hate that.
Because that means that's entering your third year out. But
yep.
I am super grateful for the Loyola community and the people that are a part of it, and making me feel welcome as an alum is really, really nice. So thank you to all of those people. Wow. Nick, what are you grateful for, and how was your day, week, since we last talked?
I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for you, and for my sister, kind of for the same reasons. Because I was having a day yesterday, to the point that I was like, I don't want to wake up tomorrow. You know, that the fun times, we love those times. And you were very like, I think this was yesterday. Was it yesterday?
It was yesterday, yeah.
It was yesterday. And I was very appreciative of you texting and just making sure I was okay, or like seeing what you could do, which in the moment, like I was like, honestly, just like full disclosure, we were supposed to record this podcast episode yesterday, and I was just not with it. Like, I was, like, not ready for it. So I was like, can we do this on the inconvenient time of 10 p.m. on Monday when you're...
That was me. That was...
Well, I mean, but because I couldn't do Sunday. But that's because I couldn't do Sunday. So, but I appreciate you, checking in on me even when I felt like I didn't deserve it. And also for moving this. And also my sister, she posted something about OCD that I posted on my story. I saw that she reposted it, and I really appreciated that. And she also just texted me that she's been listening to Chromatica during work all night, which is really cool because I was
also working at night?
She's a RA, so she's probably doing her like desk shift
on duty or something. Yeah,
because you know how like Loyola RAs had to do a desk shift.
Did they?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they did.
Oh, interesting.
Brendan Pine was my roommate, was an RA, and he had to do desk shifts in Newman.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So that's what I'm grateful for. I didn't do much this weekend. I worked Saturday night. I was supposed to work Friday night because I picked up the shift, and then I got there and it was pouring, so they were like, you can go home. And I was like, you don't have to tell me twice. Even though I picked up the shift, I was like, I'm not really feeling this.
Yeah. So, yeah. I called you in the middle of work. I forgot it was a Saturday. The days
Saturday,
blurred, and the days... That's right. And I called you during what would be your shift, and you graciously were like, "Can I call you after work?"
10, so.
But.
Yeah, I mean, it was 10 o'clock, so I was like pretty dead, but it would have looked a little weird if I picked up the phone, like in the,
carrying a tray of food. Hello? No, I'm not busy. Yeah.
We had a busser who just did not give a shit. He was like 17. Pick up his phone like while he was cleaning tables once. This was pre this current restaurant, but I always think that's really funny, and I always laugh about it.
I love that.
We also this was funny. Yeah, this was funny. We got our managers got business cards with their emails on it, and they put them at the host desk, and they really shouldn't have, because I am a child, and I decided that it would be most appropriate to send dumb emails about like my terrible experience at the restaurant, just like completely fake, about what my server Beyonce Knowles Carter did at my table that was incredibly inappropriate, and just how I would never be coming back. And also, I'm part of this band that is trying to get a gig at your restaurant, preferably on the patio, because we're into performance art. And I actually do cuss a little, so let's not have kids there while we're there. Yes.
Was that from like a personal email? I'm assuming you have good rapport with these managers.
Yeah. But it was a couple, like two of us sent emails, both saying we were in this band.
Have you gotten a reaction yet?
Yeah, she thought it was really, really funny, and I would read it, except I can't. I'll send it to you after. You know what? Okay. Let's just get your live reaction. Let me just send it to you now, and then we'll walk into this episode with open arms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you wait, hold on. How are you sending it?
I texted you.
Okay. I need to get my phone because it's away from me currently.
All right.
Okay, so I have the email. Let me read this now. You said I shouldn't read it out loud?
You should not read it out loud.
Okay,
you can read the second paragraph out loud.
Okay.
Please note before you read that the subject line says H.
I don't know if we've explained what that. I love okay, so many pieces of this, but I love that your swear word you put asterisks. Like, you had the decency to.
Well, yeah, because it's more of like not a kind word. It's definitely not an appropriate thing for people to say.
Yes, and I think, I feel like a real customer wouldn't have put the asterisk, right. So it was a nice thought,
Right. Also, we were on the same team, my manager and I, so she extra got it, and it was part of a meme that she sent me a couple weeks ago. So.
Okay, and then the second paragraph says, also, I am part of the Heine band. Our lead singer emailed you earlier. We're very talented and would love a gig, particularly on a Friday or Saturday night. We're into performance art, so if you could clear half the patio, that would be phenomenal. I actually do cuss a little, so no kids on the night we perform. I attached a sample of our latest performance, Nick T. Server, and there actually is an attachment. What'd you attach to the email? Was it like a video of like a performance?
Yeah, it was a video. Kind? Oh, it was a video of the other server that emailed her. Squirting ketchup from a Heinz ketchup bottle.
Because it's the Heine band?
She gagged. I don't even know, but she gagged afterwards. She was like, that's disgusting. And it was right as we were going into our pre-meal, which is like a meeting that the servers also, all the staff get addressed by the manager of the night, saying okay, these are the specials. This is who's where tonight. It's kind of like the informal.
So this was before your shift. You sent this email, or you recorded the video?
Yeah, we sent it, and then we recorded the video as we were all sitting down. And then she gagged and ran to the ran to the trash. And our manager was hadn't seen the email yet, and was like, "What?
What was that?" So I'm sure they probably opened the email and was like, "Ah."
Yes. She thought it was. She laughed a lot. But that's what happens when it's dead at the beginning of your shift. Anyways, So yeah, this episode is sponsored by the Heine band of Heinz ketchup fame.
Of Heinz ketchup fame. Oh my goodness.
All right.
Do you want to talk about what we're going to do this episode?
Yeah, let me bring you down real quick.
No.
Usually you say that's your job.
That
but
is
I'm gonna
my
really
job.
take
Don't take. I have very few responsibilities, but that is.
You're right. Let me take you to the pits of hell. So we're gonna basically do what we did last episode, except reverse. So I wrote a letter about how I was feeling. You already kind of got a glimpse of it. You know what I said in my intro, but this is going to scratch the surface a bit more. And then we can talk about it, because even though, like, obviously you don't have OCD, but, like, I think there are things that everybody can relate to having a bad mental health day.
Sure.
All
And
right.
I haven't read this letter.
Yes.
And I also, like, we talked about last episode that if this format works, then I think it's a cool format.
Yes.
But I also said, I think in the episode, that I didn't want, like, if you felt called to write a letter, then, like, absolutely go for it. Because, like, when I wrote the letter, mine, I was having, a day as well. And so I just kind of wrote things as like a therapeutic vent. But you didn't write this just for this episode, right? You felt called to write this.
No, I wrote it for the episode. Let's just scrap it. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Let's just go change what we're doing.
Well, I wanted to try it. In full disclosure, I wanted to try it, but I definitely had content to talk about. Like, there wasn't something that I was like, what do I write about after just having, like, a depressive episode?
Sure.
I'll answer that. You write about the depressive episode. So that's what I did.
Okay. Let's dive in.
Let's go see Satan. So I called it Tired. I called it Tired, and I'm just going to read it now. So I wrote, Dear Point of View, at the moment, I feel somewhat drained. I will admit that I feel like an attention seeker saying what I'm about to, when I'm the first to encourage someone to speak up when they are having mental health issues. I was in a lot of mental pain yesterday, thinking about things that I am told are OCD related, but nevertheless left me in bed for various parts of the day. To be honest, I canceled recording this episode yesterday because I just didn't have the energy to do it. I don't want to self-pity, and I'm feeling better now, just left feeling tired. And if I'm being honest, I feel like I'm a fraud or lying or being deceptive for not confessing the specifics of what has been bothering me. Though my therapist and any OCD specialist really would say that would be a compulsion too. Even admitting to feeling like a fake or a liar was compulsive. I'm just going to stop for a second because I just have a question for you. Whenever you're reading something that you wrote, do you ever, like, black out? Like, you don't, like, know necessarily? It just becomes words?
Maybe?
It's
I think like a little bit. Yeah,
it's just something I noticed. It's not something I'm just noticing now. I could not tell you what I just said.
Yeah.
I very much, when I wrote it, was in it, but
yeah.
That was just words to me to make sure I didn't, like, stutter or mess up. Okay, paragraph 2. I ended up doing a lot of research about my condition yesterday, which is something I am not supposed to do, since that too is compulsive, and part of the reason I'm feeling better is likely because I gave into that compulsion. I got a decent amount of reassurance in the process. Shout out to at Chrissy Hodges, or at Puro Chrissy, I'm not sure what her handle is, who is an incredible advocate for people with OCD. And her videos are so informative and amazing when not used for reassurance. Let's just remind everyone that I did just that yesterday, unfortunately. Anyway, feeling better sounds great, but seeking that reassurance only leads to a weakened ability to tolerate doubt in the future. Either way, here I am. I know I'm not back at square one, but I do get frustrated when I begin the OCD cycle again. It's wild. I will feel like an evil person one day, absolutely sure the thoughts in my head are not OCD, but will often refuse to give in to the disorder. I've gotten better at this. Still, it's wild that I will believe I don't have OCD while simultaneously knowing I have it. We love a doubting disorder. I will say, as dark as yesterday was, nothing bad happened and I am safe. So I guess that's a testament to my strength. A lot of it was feeling extremely guilty for doing things my therapist has told me to do for ERP, and what we've said before on the show is ERP is exposure and response prevention, which is the number one gold standard for OCD treatment and recovery. But I'm going to push OCD aside now for a second and just say this next part is what's more relatable, I feel like. This is just, honestly, it's just stream of consciousness, me ranting. We're supposed to play Big Brother on Sunday, but it's supposed to rain at 2 p.m. We currently have 7 players and need 9, but I don't want to hound people to play, which is what I said before I asked Justin to, which he was actually very excited to. And right now the 7 we have are very excited. I'm also stressed that someone won't be able to make it at the last minute, and I'll have to rearrange the entire game because of it. So I'm hosting it. I didn't say that. I still have a decent amount to do to prepare, but I'm excited. If the weather ruins it, though, finding a rain date that everyone can attend will be hard, and I've spent a decent, to say the least, amount of money on making this great. I also, this is so random, and I laugh at this now, but it's just that this was me just being like, I hate my life. I also cracked my tooth, and am terrified to get it fixed or even tell a dentist about it. I've had so many oral surgeries in my lifetime, though never any cavities, and the experiences were often not good. For example, and I apologize to anyone who is squeamish, I pulled out my stitches while sleeping from the roof of my mouth, and my mom like remembers it. She's like, I swear to God, it looked like a murder scene because my pillow was like red, like to the point there was like I know I'm like thinking about fainting as I heard. And then, so this is actually really funny. She went to drive me to get them. We were just having the worst night. Like, as you can probably imagine, I was like 14. My mouth is like gushing, and she's trying to keep me from fainting. We get in the car to go get it fixed, and there was a snake in the garage. And she was like, I think it was the devil. Like, I don't even like, it was just a bad day. But side note.
Oh my God.
So yeah, so I ripped my things out. I've also had gum grafts because I wore away at my gum in front of my bottom front teeth. That hurt like a mother, by the way. And I've had a large amount of teeth pulled in my lifetime for those reasons. I refuse to get my wisdom teeth out despite being strongly advised to by my dentist. Honestly, my wisdom teeth are probably what cracked this molar. It doesn't hurt, but I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, for it to break even more to the point that it does. My own fault, but I don't want to hear it right now, to be honest. This all feels very melodramatic to me when writing it out, but feelings are feelings, and if I were feeling happy when it was my turn to write one of these, that's what I would have been talking about. So that was just me, like, going on, you know. When I feel like when you're not doing well, and when you're tired, every little thing is just like, why? One thing I did yesterday that I enjoyed was read from Trauma, the Invisible Epidemic, and How We Heal from It by Dr. Paul Conti. Spoiler alert, surprise, this is the trauma episode. It's not, but he's pretty well known in the mental health field and is interestingly Lady Gaga's psychiatrist, and that's how I knew of the book. She wrote the foreword, which is how I found out about it. So it got me reflecting on some of the things that have happened to me in my own life, both big and small, and how every little thing that happens to all of us, or happens to us, affects us in one way or another. As you know, heavy as that sounds, it's a very surprisingly comforting read by a very empathetic doctor, so I highly recommend it, especially if you're into mental health. And I recommend it especially because it emphasizes the part of human wellness that we as a society are so extremely lacking in. And it just kind of details there's an entire battle going on in each one of us that we ignore because it's not custom to pay attention to. And I don't mean battle by like, oh, I'm struggling with this, I'm struggling with that. It's just like the things that have an effect, the littlest things that have effects on our mental health that we just don't talk about, or not even don't talk about, we don't know to talk about. It's really interesting. That's all I'll say about the book because I'm not even halfway finished with it. But after reading it and watching some of Chrissy's videos, I realized one thing I'm not practicing is a lack of self-judgment, especially when it comes to my intrusive thoughts. That's something I put into practice today, and it did help. I started doing ERP again after at least a week off, so that's a win, and it actually went pretty well. And I know I mentioned it earlier, but ERP stands for Exposure and Response Prevention, the latter two being the most important. So what it is you expose yourself to your irrational fears and however real they may seem, and sometimes they're exaggerated. Like the exposure is intentionally exaggerated, like, oh, what if that did happen? But then the response prevention is not reacting to it and kind of like going about your life and not like, oh, I did this, now I have to go like do whatever compulsion it is, whether it's researching, whether it's people with germs washing their hands, whatever it is, you don't do it. Because if you're not doing the response prevention, you're just doing the exposure, which is another word for torture, really. And I didn't come up with that. Someone else said that, and I agree with it. But I also realized yesterday that I want to pay more attention to the negative self-talk that I use subconsciously because it only adds to the battle I mentioned earlier. And all of this sounds great, but something that adds to the exhaustion that I talked about at the beginning is the fact that I've been at this point before. So I've been at the point where I say, I'm going to go do X, Y, and Z, to move forward in recovery. And it works for about 2 weeks. And then I always find myself back in the space of hopelessness. And when that happens, it feels like I might as well have not done anything. Still, as I mentioned before, I'm sometimes able to see the progress. And I think that's because they say you don't remember pain. You remember it, but you don't remember the exact feeling of it. I think that I was probably a lot worse before. Anyway, I'm seeing my therapist tomorrow, so I guess I know what I'm going to talk about. The fact that we may not get a professional recording of the Chromatica Ball Summer Stadium Tour by 12-time recording artist Lady Gaga. That's my letter. My reflection, if you will. That's the second voice crack I've had on this episode, too. 8.
I didn't even notice the first one.
I wish I could say it was because I was emotional, but I'm on pills, so I'm not and prescription. Let me just rephrase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Good night. Point of due.
I was gonna say, was that your?
And now we're gonna ascend into heaven.
You didn't sign your letter, so I was like, how would you sign it?
Oh. Thanks for listening. There we go.
Perfect. End of episode.
And now we're ascending into heaven.
No, thank you, Nick. This was a very powerful letter. And
was it? Because I don't know.
Like you've peripherally. That's been apparently my word of the day because I've used this word at least 4 or 5 times today. Peripheral or peripherally. You've peripherally talked about your experience with OCD on some episodes, but we haven't taken the deep dive into it. I think this could be because you want to do an Academy episode, but
yes,
that's. Yeah. I mean, in a way, this is like, but regardless, this is a deep. It's not like an informative, like this is what OCD is, and this is like the history behind it and all that stuff. Because I think that you'll probably save for your Academy episode when you want to write that. But I think this is a very good reflection. I mean, I don't even want to say good. It's your reflection from your experience with OCD. And
I tried to make it, and it was really just my experience with it this weekend for the most part.
Sure.
Like, I tried to make it in the moment, and that's why I added the ridiculous part about my tooth. Like, it was just what was happening in the moment. Like, it's a little thing. It's minor. I'm healthy. I'm very grateful for that. You know what I mean? Like, there are people that have it way worse, not to comparative suffering, but I wouldn't even call that suffering. What I call the depressive episode and, would I call that suffering? Absolutely. And it's interesting. I was listening to an interview that Howie Mandel, who also has OCD, did today. He didn't do the interview today, but I was listening to it today. And he was talking about just somebody who's like, he's had it for years or known he's had it for years and has been outspoken about it and is very successful on TV. He was like, I just had an extremely dark and depressive day. And I think he said something along, and it was kind of like along the lines of along the lines of what I was feeling. He was like, it was horrible. And his daughter apparently has it too. And she said that his OCD, Howie's, is not just about germs. That's what he's talked about the most. And I think that's his most prevalent theme, but I'm not sure. I'm not Howie.
Yeah.
Ladies, please. Okay.
And I think what this letter... So, I'll be honest. First I want to correct something I said. It sounded like I wasn't saying, I don't want to call this letter good. It was good, but I don't want to level it as like good or bad. I don't think those are the right adjectives. I just want to say I think it was a very honest reflection, and I'm grateful that you were leaning into your vulnerability by sharing this. I think for me too... Yeah, of course. I think for me too, to be honest, I don't know a lot about OCD. I did study psychology and psychopathology, so I do know maybe more than some of our listeners might, unless you're a psychologist and you studied psychology as well. But
my therapist, I wonder if he's going to listen to this.
Yeah, you should.
I'll give it to him.
Send him the link.
I will.
But the common thing, I'm sure you are familiar with the stereotypes of OCD. It's like people might say, my OCD is this. Oh, my OCD is coming out. And it's like the cleaning or organizing or something like that.
It's like if you're enjoying it, it's not OCD.
Right. Or if it's like, these need to be a specific way. I mean, those can be someone who has OCD's experience, but that's not what the condition is for everybody. Right. And I think
I had that
theme. Way of outlining. Yeah, you do a good way of outlining more so the. I feel like what the stereotype is more so behavior, but you're outlining more so the cognition side of it.
Yes. The behavior, in my case, it was not cleaning, it was researching. Am I a dangerous person? And it's like, well, this is, this, and this is OCD. And it's like, oh, okay, good. But then I'll be disappointed in myself because I'm like, I just gave in. Nothing has ever, it hasn't,
Yeah.
Like, I just gave in and now I'm back at square one.
Sure.
After not having done, I was safe the whole time. No one got hurt. I didn't get hurt. That's the whole point of it, is the irrationality of it. But I still gave in to the, making sure.
Yeah.
Which seems very trivial to me. When I explain it like that, I seem like I'm, very much sugarcoating it. It's like, oh, I thought it was going to happen. Something bad was going to happen. And then something didn't, and I was fine. And it's like, no, in the moment, it's like, oh my God, I'm pulling the wool over everybody's eyes. I am the one exception, which... in OCD world, the one exception is everybody. That's what everybody said it at one point. Oh, this is different though. I'm the one exception.
Everyone who has OCD says that to themselves.
They're the one exception. Yeah,
sure.
Because it's the doubting disorder. So you doubt that you have it.
Sure,
of course. Even though I've had multiple of the themes.
Sure.
All of them, and they've changed over the years.
Right.
Unfortunately, or fortunately for me, I don't know.
Right. I'm sure it changes throughout your life, and there's different stages that you're in and different life experiences. Yes. I do want to, before we go further, just check in with you. I know that I think I know the answer to this, but I just want to check, because you did say in a little bit of a passive way early on in the episode, to the point where I almost didn't want to wake up this morning. Are you?
Oh yeah, no.
Feeling?
Yeah.
Okay?
Let me just. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Let me just explain that for a second, because I wanted to keep it in there, or I wanted to say it because I didn't want to shy away from,
of course,
being authentic. But at the same time, it was not a feeling of, let's just be, explicit here. It was not a feeling of I want to end my life at all. It was just a feeling of hopelessness, where it's like, if I didn't wake up tomorrow, it's like, well, I was asleep. I was sleeping. I was having a good time. I love sleeping. I don't see this getting better. Sure. That's how I felt. And that is not something that I feel all the time. Sure. It was just a very low point. And I didn't put it in the actual typed email or typed letter, but I thought, this is something that I said to my parents multiple times. Honestly, part of it was to get their attention, because a lot of time, my therapist has told my parents, do not engage with these conversations when I'm like, oh, am I a bad person? Or do you think I'm okay? Or is this OCD? Whatever it is, they've been told do not engage. So I know they're trying to help me, and I know they're doing the right thing, but that's frustrating.
That's so interesting, because as someone who's unfamiliar with OCD treatment, and I know that I don't know how much you want to get into your experience. Have you said your experience last December into the
I received residential help for it for 3 months.
Yeah, you were an inpatient.
Inpatient. Well, okay, so I learned that the difference between inpatient is you can't leave.
Okay, you could leave at your own will if you wanted to.
Well, I couldn't. I couldn't because of COVID.
Oh, because of COVID. But
so it was residential. Okay.
Sure.
But because of quarantining reasons, we couldn't. Okay. And we couldn't have guests or anything. But typically in that program, you could leave. You could go to the mall and come back. You could do whatever. We just didn't do any of that.
And part of that program was educating family support systems around you, right?
Yes, which I very much appreciate. I can't believe you remember that. I forgot about that, to be honest, so I feel seen.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm glad. But so I guess going back to what you were saying about that's very a foreign idea for me. Yeah. Because I feel like when you talk about mental health and being there specifically for, which OCD is not a mood disorder. Mood disorders being major depressive disorder or general anxiety disorder, those types of things. You want to be there for the person, right? You want to provide them with that support, that I don't know, extra pillow or something for them.
Of course.
But with the OCD treatment, at least what it sounds like is obviously when you're in a low point, and again, this is just me trying to make sure that I have what you expressed in the letter
of course
clear. When you're at a low point, sometimes you'll have like the, intrusive thoughts and just engage in thought patterns that aren't necessarily healthy for you in a moment, or the behavior side, you'll like do the researching thing. And so what your therapist and your care team has told your family to do is when they see you kind of going down, for lack of a better phrase, maybe like definitely stop
the
me if
rabbit
this is
hole.
not correct.
No, the rabbit hole.
When you see you going down the rabbit hole, not to engage.
Not to engage in the conversation of, like, I will try and get someone to reassure me that everything is fine.
Got it.
With me. They can be supportive. Like, it's not like, oh, get out of my face.
We have to ignore Nick now.
Yeah, no, it's just
that.
like, and my mom's gotten she's said it, it's very difficult for her, but she's gotten good at identifying when I'm doing a compulsion, which is confessing. That's a huge one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I've been told, like, she'd be like, I didn't need to know, or like, you didn't need to say that, and so she'll be like, I don't want to talk about this, let's talk about something else. And it's like, well, I'm struggling right now, so this feels very dismissive, even though I know, it's what she's supposed to do.
Sure.
And I appreciate her doing what she's been told to do. And this is not, I just want to like reiterate this is not just like my therapist coming up with like wacky ideas. Like, this is
research
universally based. Yes, that, and also universally like accepted, like within like OCD specialists. Like, this is just
part of effective care for individuals with OCD.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You mentioned confessing and confessions as being a compulsion. Mm-hmm. And I'm just looking at the letter right now, and you say, and if I'm being honest, I feel like I am a fraud or lying or deceptive for not confessing the specifics of what has been bothering me, though my therapist and OCD specialist really would say that would be a compulsion too.
Yes.
When you first read that, I just saw that as, I didn't see much of that. But then when you say that, and I saw the word confessing in front of me, I realized that you were writing, like, can you, I don't know if this is...
Breaking the fourth wall?
Breaking the fourth wall, maybe, but I don't know if this is... if this is triggering, obviously I don't want you to talk about it, but do you, like, what do you mean by confessing as in the form of a compulsion?
So I did it in the letter. So when I said I feel like I'm lying right now, or I feel like I'm not like being honest, or I feel like I'm not, that's like, you didn't need to say that. You know what I mean? Like, you're telling your authentic story. Or like, I don't know, I just had this thought. Like, you don't need to, does that mean I'm a bad person? Like, you don't need to say that.
Yeah.
At least once you've been like proven, like, they don't just accept anyone and be like, oh yeah, this person, you know what I mean? Like, people with OCD don't hurt people. That's the distinction, and I actually don't have harm OCD. Let me just back up and say harm OCD is not a diagnosis. It's one of the common themes of OCD where people think like, oh, what if I were to like stab my whoever? That's not one of them that I have. And I'm, I'd say I'm grateful for that, but I don't want to jinx myself. But
that hasn't been your experience thus far.
Thus far, yeah. I'm praying it's not coming.
Yeah, no, yeah, of course.
So like, that's one of like, that'll be a thing. Like, oh, I just had I'm using this example because it's one that, like I said, that I haven't experienced. It's like, oh, I just had the thought that like, what if I stab her? Or I had the thought that I want to stab this person, and I hate that. Like, I don't want to do that. Why would I think that? Blah blah blah. It's like telling someone to make sure that this is just OCD, right? Like, telling your like, you can obviously tell your therapist, but like, once it becomes compulsive and it's like, well, do you have a history of that? No. Does that make you anxious? Yes.
Got
it. It's just kind of like, yeah.
So it's almost
and it's
like
stigmatized because
right. It's almost like you feel like the intrusive nature of it makes you feel like, oh, you have to confess that thought or that whatever you're experiencing to,
or you're hiding something.
The therapist, or yeah.
Okay. Or to make it feel like you're not lying, because
right.
if I don't tell them, then it's like, well, I must be lying and being inauthentic. So, like, let me just make sure he knows.
Sure.
So, which is, that's just one of the, I think, honestly, after doing this episode, I feel like the Academy episode should come soon.
Should follow or soon follow.
Yeah, honestly, because there's so much more that I could talk about that I don't want to open up right now because it would be a whole nother episode.
Right.
And I'm nervous about it, to be honest. Like, it's not well known, and like everything I'm gonna say is, research-based, evidence-based. Like, that's another thing that I fear, and maybe this is intrusive as well, is that people aren't gonna believe me. And be like, oh no, OCD is just about cleaning, and it's like, well, I went to one of like the top, like the place I went, the hospital I went is, as you know, very well known.
Right.
And it was a specific OCD program. It wasn't just for people that have disorders.
And for those listening who feel like they can relate to Nick's experience, feel free to reach out to the podcast, and I'm sure Nick would be happy to share.
Yes, I will say we did have that. I would never share their story, their personal information, their name, anything, but we had somebody reach out.
Okay.
And feel very validated.
That's wonderful.
So yeah.
And we had a lot of people in the Moi Moi community too.
Yes, we did.
Which is cool. I don't know. This is our little passion project. It's nice to feel like people are being reached out to and feel heard or resonated. We resonate with people, which is nice. We're doing this. We're big community people.
I'll promote this within like the OCD communities that I'm a part of, like in terms of social media, but just be prepared. We're gonna get DMs.
We'll see.
I'm calling it now. We'll get at least one.
We'll see what happens, but yeah, at least what I was saying is, we're not disclosing the name of the program that Nick was part of currently now, but if you were curious about it or want any more information, obviously we can reach out to the podcast, and we can be in touch. Absolutely, we try and be accessible for people.
Yeah, and my therapist, who I see now, is the one that I met through, the program. That was through the program. Yeah, and there were multiple, but the one that was my main person that I worked with that like fully knows my story is my current therapist, and he's incredible. He actually messaged me, or he like sent me a message saying, "Have fun tonight," because he knew how much I was excited for the Chromatica Ball and had been talking it. I was in the program. I had already had the tickets. So it was cool that he remembered that I was going.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
To wrap up, if I might, I want to do two things. The first thing is I kind of want to just share how grateful I am. I mean, I said gratitude, but how grateful I am that you felt like you were able to talk about this with me. I mean, this is obviously not the most private platform that we're doing this on, but just how I'm so grateful that you were able to share this with me. And then just like in general, like during our I don't even know how many year-long relationship that we've had, at times you've disclosed things that maybe aren't easy disclosing. Like the example that comes to mind is you shared the first time you kind of like opened up to me about OCD. You shared kind of what the intrusive thought pattern that you have had once, and the specific one you shared with me was sometimes you thought, and this might be a shock to some listeners, but the thought pattern you had was, what if I actually don't like Lady Gaga?
Which sounds so stupid. It sounds dumb.
Well, I'm not going to say not right, but like...
No, but it does. It sounds like it's like, okay, so you don't like her, like get, like, whatever. But it was such an identity thing, and it OCD attacks, this is getting so deep into, like, we should...
Yeah, and if we want to save stuff, definitely, like...
It goes after what you're passionate about, whether it be the safety of others, morals, your passions, your self-esteem, like it just goes after what you're passionate about.
Sure. And to me that was because I knew you then, and I was like, Nick, if you love anything in this world besides your family and your dog and obviously your loved ones, it's Lady Gaga. And like the fact that your experience with OCD has brought on thoughts of what if it's all a farce was just so it was. I hesitate to say fascinating, but it was so it's
fascinating.
It was a glimpse for me into what OCD is for you.
It's fascinating. It really is. I find it fascinating. Even when I'm researching, not like necessarily as compulsions, I'm just very interested in it because it is so. You could read about it for hours. Like it is interesting, and we can get into it. I think we should do the Academy episode. Honestly, I'm down to do it as the next one if you want. But,
that might fall in terms of flow. That might do some good.
Yeah.
But and then the second thing I just wanted to say is, you said yesterday was really rough, and I'm as your friend, I hate to see you in that type of state, but it happens, and I'm glad you were able to take time to be with yourself, be with your family, and take the time you need for yourself. But I have to ask, as we wrap this episode up, what measures did you take, or what things helped you? It seems like you're feeling much better today. So what types of things went from yesterday to today that kind of brought you how you entered the podcast today?
Well, to be honest, and I'm, like I said, I'm not like super, happy that I did this, but I think the researching and the compulsions, like they help for a minute, and it just makes it a lot worse in the long run. It gave me that boost to say, no, I can, I can do this, and it's sad because that's like the normal thing that people would do is to, to reassure themselves, be like, no, I've got this, like I've got, and you can still do that, but that wasn't what I should have done. But you know what? I haven't done that in a long time. So it was just a low point, and, we start over, but it did help me realize that like, I'm not giving myself that compassion during the bad moments. And I just wrote something down, and I really liked it. And I think this is how I want to end it. I said, if I'm not going to trust myself, then I'm also not trusting my doubts either. So that's in reference to me saying,
wow,
when I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm lying, I'm not going to trust that either. If my therapist says I'm not lying, I'm not lying. Good night.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm going to work with it. How long is that going to last me? Probably 5 minutes.
I am really proud of you. Thank you for this episode. And maybe before we do our outro, if you just want to read that last line again, because I think it was really powerful.
Yes, I said, if I'm not going to trust myself, I'm not trusting my doubts either.
Thank you. Do you want to take us home?
My name is Nick Gervasi.
And I'm Justin Dew.
You can reach us at our email, pointofviewpodcast@gmail.com, or by sending us a voice message on our website, anchor.fm/pointofview. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook @pointofviewpodcast and Twitter @pointofview. If you enjoy our show, give us a rating or review in the Apple Podcast Store, or share us with a friend or family member. You can also, I think, rate us on Spotify. I don't know why we just have Apple Podcasts there, but we'd really appreciate it.
Yeah,
I just don't know how to. We'd really appreciate it and are truly grateful for your support. As always, we hope you have a great week. Thank you for listening, and until next time, H.
This time the colors will not be the same.